Yeah.
Hello, I'm new on your page, and I love your page. Of course, I've stolen many memes,
Okay,
but
great.
question I have for people who take like a daily ARB or ACE2 blocker, like um, certain medications like high blood pressure medications for hypertension. I've read through where they've done studies a while ago. It's not anything new, but as far as like ACE2 receptors and how this virus kind of takes hold and gets
Yes.
in, um, do you have any information on any protection for people that take those daily medications, or any like something that could make it worse? Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, the latest information is that you need a surface that has the expression of two molecules. One is the ACE2 receptor and the TMPRSS2, which is adjacent to it. Okay. So right now we know that the adult versions of this are found in in high density in the linings of your respiratory system. They're found in the mucosa of your oro and nasopharynx, and to a certain extent, they're found in the conjunctiva and of the ocular area. So, the conjunctiva, as well as to a certain extent the area around the cornea. Um, that is why it is so easy for this virus to fall on those surfaces and get a grip, so to speak. But you need both of those molecules for the virus to effectively go inside. An ACE inhibitor is the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. Okay, it doesn't necessarily work on the receptor physically. It works on the pathway, so it doesn't have a protective effect. Angiotensin receptor blockade, also ARBs, losartan and others, also don't have a protective effect discernibly, and that would need to be studied. But we understand the mechanism as to why they wouldn't be protective. So other medications that are that we're investigating. One was that, okay, if this causes clotting, maybe people who are on Coumadin for atrial fibrillation, or who are on aspirin for because they're on, they have coronary artery disease or have stents or whatever, they would be protected. That's not true either. The reason that's not true is because the clotting cascade has different points at which different anticoagulants act, and where the virus has activity in disrupting the clotting cascade. Right now, we are understanding that only heparin, one of the blood thinners that we use in hospital settings, is the one that's truly protective. So low molecular weight heparin compared to unfractionated is the one that's being used in the John, if you could bring up the most recent deck that I saved on I think I've got that. But anyway, so there are some drugs
Sure.
that we recommend, but it's hard. I mean, it's not possible right now to recommend that you take anything, either prescribed or over the counter, that has enough evidence to recommend that it is protective. Okay. The
Thank you.
trimodal therapy that is emerging right now is that if you get sick and end up in the hospital, my prediction again is we're going to halve the mortality rate in the next few weeks by using this trimodal therapy that's emerging. One of the questions Gene asked is everybody doing this? The answer is no, unfortunately. University centers are experimenting with this, and those those centers that are at the cutting edge of immunology and et cetera. So immunomodulators are there to prevent the body from kicking the immune system into overdrive and developing what's called cytokine storm, where the body does more damage to itself with its own immune system than than it should. And it's a result of it's like, somebody's running up the hill at you and you grab a 50 cal and start, just spraying bullets. And that's what the immune system does when it sees COVID coming, to use a crude example. So certain monoclonal antibodies are now showing effectiveness because they are interleukin-6 receptor inhibitors. Not to get too technical, here are the top candidates: tocilizumab, siltuximab, and an old standby that you know as Pepcid, famotidine. These are immunomodulators that cause the body to suppress the cytokine storm, okay? So it keeps the body from doing damage to itself during the process of fighting the virus. The antivirals that are most promising right now, we have some good evidence on remdesivir. The federal government has mobilized, and FDA has made remdesivir available now. I think the initial 4,400 doses have been sent to New York hospitals because they still have a high patient load. We have found that a drug from the HIV arsenal, leronlimab, which is a CCR5 inhibitor, is highly effective in a case study of 35 patients. Highly effective, all of them recovered. COVID-19 patients. There's a drug outside of this country trialed by the Japanese, favipiravir, which I mentioned very early in these town halls. So these are the three candidates for the top most effective antivirals. And now, as I said, anticoagulants, as of last week, we were still thinking that maybe warfarin and aspirin might be useful, even not in a non-clinical, but even in a clinical setting. That's not the case. We figured out that low molecular weight heparin and nafomostat are the drugs that will most likely become candidates for anticoagulation to prevent the clotting and the infarcts that are associated with the disruption that COVID causes to vasculature. So this is where nafomostat acts, and you can see the two receptors I was talking about, ACE2 and TMPRSS2. Both of those are necessary for the SARS-CoV-2 to enter the human cell and cause infection. Nafomostat is an existing drug, and it has a strong inhibition of that particular molecule. You see TMP, and that will keep it from doing the second step and entering. Again, we need to test these, create a protocol, validate the protocol, and then in the next couple of weeks start trialing it all over the country. And if we start to see positive results, then this trimodal therapy will become pretty standard, hopefully, with further evidence gathering. Next. Leronlimab, again, from the fight against HIV, blocks the CCR5 receptor. Dr. Ram Yogendra, who does these town halls out of New York, he has done a couple, and they're on the page that John and I have established. There's a video library, and you can find an explanation of how this works and the trial that's been going on in New York. I think it's at Mount Sinai, and how effective this has been. So again, thank you to 20 years of HIV research and the last 10 years of HIV drug development. Here's the anticoagulant cascade. I'm sorry, the clotting cascade and the anticoagulants where they act. So low molecular weight heparin mechanism of action is on factor X, factor 10 we call it. This takes a semester to understand, so don't feel bad. This is what we're going to be using to deal with the clotting associated with COVID. Okay.
No, that's actually excellent. So basically, like what I'm not in the medical field at all, but just paying close attention. So basically, just trying to kind of like playing with the virus, like playing it at its best game. So basically, inhibiting it from being able to take hold and enter into the system to cause infection is looking like a very good look as far as trying to get this thing under control before a vaccine.
Yes, correct. Exactly. I think that's the point I should have tried to make initially. Yes, we're getting a better grip on how this thing does damage, and then we're finding the spots at which we can trip it up. Right. So, is it at the attachment phase? Is it at the whatever we call it, those 4 steps that I showed you in the beginning? Is it attachment? Is it replication? Um, um, Reassembly and or propagation? At which step can we just kind of like cut it down at its knees and stop it from getting to the next step? Now, one thing we learned from HIV is there'll be a population that will stop with one drug, and then within the histogram of the population inside that particular person's body, that population will stop, and then by this drug we'll proceed to the next step, and another drug will have to be used to stop this group, and another drug will have to be used to stop that last group that escaped the first 2 drugs. You see what I mean? At different concentrations, we have to give all 3 to stop it from doing damage at various stages of its life cycle and at various places in the body.
Awesome. And I just want to say thank you to, doctors, researchers, nurses, everybody in the age of pandemic. This is so refreshing to get facts and science rocks, and that's how I sleep better at night, because I'm in Nashville, where we're also on a surge, and of course, in Tennessee they've decided to open up, and I'm not going to be out there. I'm not, but this helps me sleep at night knowing that behind the scenes of an inept administration there's real stuff being done to fight this. So thank you for this.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for the question.